Welcome to Charting New Paths in Pre-K-12 Education, a podcast by Solution Tree. We'll highlight the triumphs of top pre-K-12 education leaders as they share their journey from previous challenges to their current course of action. Hear encouraging success stories from school and district leaders, teachers, and the education experts we're pleased to call our authors and associates. As their stories unfold, discover how these purpose-filled educators work collaboratively to create high levels of learning for all their students. I'm your host, Prisma Lopez-Marine. Enjoy today's episode. Hello, everyone. In today's episode, we'll be talking with education leaders from the Adel Desoto Minburn School District in Adel, Iowa, and with one of our esteemed Solution Tree associates. They will share with us their experience with Solution Tree, the impact of professional development, particularly with the professional learning community process, and then also, of course, their success story with Adel Desoto Minburn Middle School becoming a Model PLC school. With us today from Adel Desoto Minburn District, Superintendent Greg Dufoe and Middle School Principal Kim Timmerman, joined by our Solution Tree Associate and Director of PD and Instruction, Geri Parscale. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for this episode.
Hi.
Hey. Good morning.
Hello. Super excited. It's a very exciting episode for me, especially for this being one of the first success stories that we're telling within this podcast. So it's very exciting today. Let's go ahead and get started here with this first question directed to Mr. Defoe. So before we do talk about your journey to becoming a Model PLC school, Mr. Defoe, could you start by telling us about your role in the Adel Desoto Minburn District, and then also your first encounter with Solution Tree?
Thank you. Well, my role here since 2008 has been as a school superintendent. So I've worked with Kim and the building principals closely, since that time. So this was the ADM is a really special place. It's my first superintendency, and I hope it's my last. So it's a special place. So I started in 2008. I was introduced to the PLC model kind of inadvertently, I guess. I was sent to as an assistant principal. I was sent to a PLC conference that featured Greg Dufoe. This would be about 20 years ago, and this was in Kansas City. And it was I didn't really know what I was attending actually, but it was I would label it as a career changer. So it altered the course of my professional career without question. So I became a Rick Dufoe disciple, I guess you would say, from that moment forward. So when we started here at ADM together, the start of our journey was pretty simple. We simply used the first edition of the PLCs at Work, that core book we read as an administrative team with Kim and the rest of the principals, because Kim was here prior to when I arrived. So our relationship goes back to 2008. So we leveraged our leveraging of Solution Tree's resources really ramped up in 2013 when we had Geri on site. We had to go back and kind of look at our records, but that was the year, we contracted with Geri through Solution Tree to come on site, I think over the course of a full year, and provide guidance with what we call now our district guiding coalition. So, and Kim can add to this, but I would view that, and I think Kim sees this as the springboard for the middle school in particular.
Sure.
But Kim can talk about that in more detail. And really from that point, we've leaned on Solution Tree in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. We attend the PLC Institutes in Des Moines. When they're offered, we send a big contingent on an annual basis. We hosted a hybrid event that Geri helped facilitate for 2 days in August of 2017. And then we've invited and had the pleasure of having people like Anthony Muhammad, Ken Williams, and Aaron Hansen be keynote speakers at our annual, what we call our Experiencing Success Today conference. So we've really leaned on those rock stars for us. And then right now we're using Bill Barnes to help in our math curriculum revision. So Solution Tree is, we lean on them in major ways. So we wouldn't be here without all of the resources and professional expertise that Solution Tree's been able to provide.
That's super great to hear, just out of my own experience as well, but also because it's good to hear that all these resources have such an influence. And also if they do, I've seen it, there's huge impact in different ways. Everybody's experience with the resources that Solution Tree does provide is different, but it's exciting to see how everybody uses them.
For sure.
So for Ms Prescale, I know that you've been with us for a great amount of time, and then also even within your individuality of success in your 28 years in education leadership and just professional development as a teacher, principal, professional development director, and then also the deputy superintendent of schools in Fort Leavenworth. Can you describe your experience just with PLC and then some difficulties you've seen in some leadership you face, not necessarily within the school we're talking with today, but just in general that you've seen in throughout your time?
I can, and it's just lovely to be here, and I'm so proud of the work that ADM has done, and your work with Solution Tree, and really, but just the work that you've done internally, because I think that it is work. There is an article by Margaret Wheatley called "Willing to be Disturbed." And she talks about when we face change, we have to be willing to be disturbed, because in education, I think we're taught that we're supposed to know everything. We're supposed to have the right answers. And I vividly, kind of like Greg had said, I vividly remember sitting in an auditorium in a suburb of Kansas City, at a school in suburb of Kansas City, hearing Dr. Rick Dufoe talk about meeting the needs of kids where they are so that we can move them forward. And it was as if he had come and visited our school, and because everything that he was saying was a replica of what we were experiencing, needing to meet our kids who were at all levels of not just academics, but behavior as well. And what he was saying just made sense, because it wasn't just another thing to put on your plate, because we know as educators, our plates are already full. And so what is it we need to do? And one of the things that I've always stuck with leadership especially is it's not just about working hard, because we are the hardest working profession that I know. And no disrespect to any other profession, but teachers and educators work their hearts out. And so I've always tried to flip the script, I think, when thinking about work and what we do as educators. And instead of working harder, I want us to do the right work. And I think that there are very specific things, we call them tights in a professional learning community, that if we hold tight to those things, we are not necessarily working harder, but we are doing the right work. And I think that that's always something that I tell administration. And I know that when I worked with you, it was, let's do the right work. Let's figure out what our tights are going to be, always keeping, and this was, of course, one of those pieces that Dr. Defoe pushed, keeping the main thing, and that is student learning. So I would say that overarching, the difficulties we face as leaders, right, in education, it can be helped, I guess, with that, keeping the main thing and doing the right work.
Thank you. I really like the insider's perspective of just your experience with this school. And though it was back in 2013, I'm sure it's exciting to hear what they've continued to accomplish. So Ms. Timmerman, you're the principal of Adel Desoto Minburn Middle School, the success story for this episode. Please share with us what your school is like, the school environment, teachers, students, and just your experience as in your leadership role.
I love the middle school. I love ADM middle school. So I could talk about that for a really long time. We are currently this year, 7th and 8th grade, which is a change for us at our district. Our district is growing. And so we added a new building. And so we've had some shifts here. So the middle school currently is a 7th and 8th grade building, and we have approximately 175 students per grade. I just have to tell you, I have the absolute best staff, and we would not be the PLC we are without their leadership and without them so deeply understanding how their leadership really matters. It's not about me. It's about all of us as leaders, because every teacher here is a phenomenal leader and believes so heavily in the PLC process and believes in exactly what Geri talked about, is learning for all. Oh boy, we believe that so strongly at ADM, like that, all means all, and we are all in on that. I have a teacher that likes to say, dialed in, and I feel like we are dialed in on just being a PLC. Like we joke, we wouldn't function anymore. I mean, if we weren't, following our process of our PLC, and those are collaborative team leaders. We call ourselves the PLC executive team. But it's for sure our guiding coalition. Like we meet every week. I met with them this morning, and it's one of the most important times of our week, because we have to plan with those leaders what our plans are for every Friday during our PLC time. So we follow the process, and we believe so strongly in all the pieces, from norms to, all of us bring our data. So it's not just my students, it's our students, and all of that really blossomed when we had our 2-day workshop with Geri. And I've told this story so many times that, like, it didn't just transform. We called it the transformation day, but it transformed our school. I mean, without a doubt. And it's just so fun, and it's just been life-changing for me, and I'm so thankful for it.
I really like that, the Transformation Day. It just demonstrates the excitement that was behind the professional development just as a group. So I'm sure it's definitely rewarding to see the growth. So also, can you both tell us more about ADM Community School ecosystem, just in terms of leadership, principals and teachers working together? And then also, I would like to learn more about the challenges the school had before seeking to become a model PLC school.
As you ask us to describe our ecosystem, Kim talked about, the 7th and 8th grade middle school and the number of students. Our district is a district of 2,100 students. As Kim mentioned, we're growing. We're just west of Des Moines. So we're strategically located. We're positioned to do really great things. As Kim did mention, it all really does start with an excellent staff. We've been able to recruit and retain excellent teachers, and that's really the backbone, as we all expect and know. And our communities are very supportive. So we have the conditions to really move from good to great. And, we should expect that from ourselves. So our challenges over the course of the PLC journey, as Kim mentioned, we're efforting towards, the PLC process just being a part of our fabric of how we do business. And Kim may talk more about, what that looks like at the middle school level. But our challenges, and that's why we really brought Geri in 2017, is to move past doing PLC light. That's a LITE. That's an expression that's used in the PLC literature. You kind of do something, but it's not with the depth that you want it to do. So we didn't want to have an initiative that was like that, and we don't even view our PLC path as an initiative. It's how we do business. So we felt like we were doing things kind of PLC light-ish around the 2017 time. We were stagnated, and we needed to dig deeper. So we did. So then the other piece that we really lean on the PLC structure, the processes, is that we can't be satisfied with just being good. And when you talk about our principal team, we've talked about our teachers. Our principals are amazing. We don't have time to describe how we've transformed the way we lead as a collection of district level leaders and building leaders. But if I'm so proud of that, but what we've done is we've been able to confront brutal reality and use what Jim Collins describes as the Stockdale paradox, where we confront our brutal facts and also have a plan to overcome and succeed. And we've done that using the PLC framework in large measure. So that's kind of our status. We have a literacy initiative going this year that is, comes out of confronting our brutal facts, not being afraid to address our issues, and moving forward aggressively using things that we've learned in our PLC journey. So, Kim, I don't know if you want to add more to that from more dialed in on the middle school journey.
Yes, absolutely. Mr. Timmerman, can you elaborate on the journey and efforts you had done with PLC as well?
Okay, so, we really, this is my 20th year at ADM, but I think it was about 17 years ago is when I really kind of stepped into the administrative role. I started out as a counselor at ADM. And like Greg said, we called ourselves a PLC. We were definitely, as Greg's term, we were PLC light, and I feel a lot of that was to the lack of leadership amongst the teachers. I would try to run collaborative teams and until we really got that guiding coalition in place and used consistent methods with that is really when we would even start thinking about thinking about being a model PLC school. And we talk about that. Geri mentioned the change, and that really made me think about the people that I had involved at that point. And most of those people are still here with me. So that was quite a long time ago. And yet I had the right people on the bus at the right time. And we had the capacity to change. And we had the people that were ready to jump in and really figure out how can we improve and how can we really function at a high level and meet all of our students' needs and really sway away from my students to our students. And once we had that transformation, which I want to talk more about, oh my goodness, things blossomed then from so much more learning, where learning really became our focus at all times. And with everything we did, not just in PLC, but learning became our focus in how I discipline. We changed all of our grading throughout these years of really growing and developing. So we switched from traditional grading to standards-based learning, and we call it learning because we focus on the learning. And all of our assessments changed and our interventions changed. Our Tiger Time does not have the same look that it used to because we really focus on learning. And so it's been such a fun, challenging process to really continue to improve. Because, Prisma, you even kind of mentioned this a little bit, but, we've always been a pretty successful school. And like Greg said too, that doesn't mean we're great. We're really, really good, but we needed to continue to get better. And so that has been always in our frame of mind, that we continue to improve. And so when Geri came for our 2-day workshop, it was a blast. I mean, I had a large group of teachers with me. I want to say there was maybe 13 or so of us. The middle school was like kind of in the middle of the room, and we were all in. And Geri walked us through the process of really thinking through what are the foundations of PLC. We say we're a PLC, but what really are they? And then we really embedded those in our plans. Okay. And then we started working on throughout those 2 days a PLC at Work action plan. And it was really to simply become more effective and utilize leadership in big ways. And, once we kind of started working through that with Geri, that triggered an idea to really, how are we going to spread this to our whole staff and really have this become the culture of our school? So we started planning just while we were in those 2 days. We started planning this, what we called Transformation Day. And we planned an entire day where we really focused in on teaching the teachers all these things that we were excited about as leaders. And we did tons of the activities that we did with Geri. So we got to know each other. We built trust as collaborative teams. We played the North, South, East, West, all those games, Geri, that we played with you. We built in that day, and we really spread out all of those pieces amongst the staff leaders. So the teachers immediately were like, oh yeah, I want to be a part of this, because this is we're all involved here. It's not just a Kim Timmerman thing, And so, that really was exciting, and drastically just changed our culture. And it really gave ownership to every teacher to believe in being a professional learning community. And so it's exciting. And like I said, from that transformation, it really stemmed, now what? And so these, it was probably when we were applying for a PLC, we were really transitioning and learning a lot. We've used solution tree resources like crazy, because we do a book study, at least one book study every year as a staff. And so for several years, those book studies revolved around grading and standards-based learning and assessments and just that, high focus of learning. And so that has really just become part of the culture too. And from that, we knew that one of the pieces that Geri really spent a lot of time with us on in that 2-day workshop was feedback. Mm-hmm. And so, not only did we change grading practices, but we knew that feedback is a really important piece for learning. And so we used a couple of years, we used a couple solution tree resources that were focused in on feedback. And that was, I know, really beneficial to staff and students and even parents to really think through that learning, that focused piece of learning. And then that's continued into, like I mentioned, our interventions. And our work this year that Greg mentioned is just a perfect fit for where we are with what's next. How do we keep improving? And really our interventions this year, I feel like, are better than they've ever been, because we know the importance of feedback. We know the importance of learning. And now we're using, and we continue to use our data, which the data can change and it, can rotate through with what our data is in front of us at that point. And right now, our interventions are just dialed in, with a strong focus of what that intervention time really looks like for each student. So we can really focus in on all students and not just some of them. So it's been really fun.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for all your input, and more than anything, your story, your experience. That's just it. Like definitely provides just a resonating, wonderful information for people to have, for people to hear. Anybody who's actually trying to be a model PLC school, and even if you're not, this is just an experience of these education leadership that continues to evolve, that continues to grow, and that came from an already successful school, and then now it's just becoming even a more amplified, an amplification to their continuous success. So it's very exciting to hear everything that you've all provided for us today. And then just one last question for Ms. Parscale. What would be your advice for anybody looking towards to applying for a model PLC school?
I'm so glad you asked, because I was going to follow up with what both Greg and Kim said. Again, I think it goes back to learning together and learning from one another. And so with regards to model schools, one of the, I think, the aims of those model schools is also to help others, right? And to make sure that they can be of assistance at any point in your journey of living as a professional learning community. And so I would encourage going to allthingsplc.info. And that website, if you navigate that website, and there is so much, it's just so rich with information and with ideas and with help. And it's truly All Things PLC, but I believe it's under the tab, See the Evidence. And you can take a look and dive in a little bit more to the ADM story, right? By clicking on that particular school district, but really any school district. And you can, of course, tailor your search as far as the size of your school, the level of your school, and some other pertinent information to find schools in Iowa or any state to be able to say, someone who looks like me, someone who's near me, we're struggling with. And make sure that we don't lose sight of the importance of educators helping one another, right? We're learning together and we're helping one another because we're all going for the same mission, and that is learning for all, right? Whatever it takes. But we get stuck. There are hills and valleys, as we've talked about before. And so I would definitely start perusing that website and looking at schools and getting in touch with those schools.
Absolutely.
And everyone who is on there will be more than happy to help, more than happy to share, and be able to just reach out and give ideas and help in any way possible. So I would say that that's probably first and foremost for those of us who are always struggling to prioritize time. I think that that's going to be a plus for any school district who's interested in that.
Oh, well, thank you. And that's one of the most exciting and most amazing things about what I've learned so far about education is that everybody's so willing to help each other. And it is a community, whether where you're from, nationwide, worldwide, it's a community of educators helping others. Well, Greg and Kim, thank you for sharing your success story. It was very wonderful to hear from you. And then also Ms. Geri, for your insight on PLC. Thank you for all of that. And I appreciate all of you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Keep it up, Kim and Greg.
Thanks, Geri.
So proud.
Geri.
Good job.
Thanks, Geri.
Yep. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. All right, so visit our Solution Tree website to learn more about Geri Parscale. And also, if you would like to request her professional development guidance, go to solutiontree.com and then look for her page. At Solution Tree, we share your vision to transform education and ensure learning for all. We can help you make this vision a reality. No other professional learning company provides our unique blend of research-based, results-driven services that improve learning outcomes for students. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate you tuning in, and make sure to check us out at solutiontree.com/podcast.